Hey guys, well, it's old Blue Cord back again with a video, and well, just been kind of hanging out in the shop, uh, kind of doing some cleaning, but really not doing a much cleaning. But what I'm doing is, I brought the Jeep in and did an oil change video. Well, I did an oil change and did a little video, but I thought about the brakes a little bit because it's been a while since I changed the brakes. I'm kind of like to keep everything in tip-top shape. So what I'm going to do is talk about brakes for my Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's a 2015. It is an SRT, so that means it has a 6.4 liter motor, and then it has some performance stuff on it like tires and obviously brakes. So we're going to look at here. So it comes with like a what looks like about a 15-inch rotor, which I believe these are original. And this I was just cleaning the shop out and I had all this junk laying here, and I thought, well, just while I'm doing this, and then there's really just going to trash. But so it comes with Brembo pads, right? That's factory stock, and they're a good pad. The problem with them is, and you'll hear this a lot, is they can create some dust, and brake dust is part of having a performance vehicle, obviously, because the brake dust is, you're using a pad up for maximum performance, and it's just a byproduct of whatever fillers and stuff they use in these pads. Now, Brembo, for some reason, they're just horrible, and I hate people that complain about brake dust, but they're just horrible. The brake dust was so bad on these pads, it would actually get inside the cab of the vehicle with the doors shut. So you could actually open up the door, and inside the door jamb, there was brake dust everywhere. And if you had like a lady with you and she had a dress, her skirt would drag on the running boards and get brake dust on them. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. One day I had my arm partially out the window, and as I was hard braking, not really hard braking, but braking down an exit ramp on the highway, I could actually feel the brake dust hitting me in the arm. I mean, kind of ridiculous. But they grab good. They stop good. They handle heat very well, and these wore pretty well. I mean, I don't run my brake pads obviously down to the metal, but they wore pretty good. So, and I don't, like I said, I try to change them out quite a bit. So, and they're expensive. They're way over $300, or they were. And so my next step was to try my tried and true old Raybestos brand, which Raybestos I've always really liked. And this pad was reasonably priced. Same style, size, whatever, fit good. And, they stopped pretty good, and the dusting was about half as bad, and that was the big thing. So I got the equal amount of stopping, but I had, I was not dusting as bad. I mean, just not nearly as bad. It still had to wash the vehicle once in a while and all that, and that's fine, but it just wasn't so ridiculous. So, and I kept the stock rotors, so they went with the stock rotors, and they were not bad. They were over $100. I don't want to go into prices because this all kind of went over the course of like 7 years, so probably five to 7 years. So, and I ran them for quite a while, but I was never really impressed with the grip. These are the EHT style brake pads. As you can see, there's quite a bit of meat left on there. I feel like they could last a long time. But not to give them a bad rap, I did not change the rotors. I kept the stock, which I would assume for the Jeep would be Brembo style rotors. So what I did after that is then I went to my tried and true, and this is my favorite brake pad, or brake pad company, is EBC, and they're made in I believe they're made in Great Britain, so kind of cool. But they're my favorite pad. I can tell you some good stories about their green stuff pads. But I went with the yellow stuff. I don't really believe they make greens for this weight of vehicle. Probably a good thing, but they're kind of considered the upgraded performance pad. And they were expensive. They were way over 300 bucks. And I had a special order them, all that nonsense. But, you know, I ran them for a while, and they stopped pretty good. They wore pretty well. But one thing that I kind of caught, and it kind of goes back to what I was looking at the other day with parts. Their thickness came in brand new 100 thousandths under what a normal brake pad would. So I measured these out as like, I think it was 285 thousandths, and a normal brake pad would have an extra 100 thousandths of meat on them, brand new. And I called them and said something about it, and they said there's not a standard for thickness, which I think is incorrect, totally incorrect. But they're always been my go-to recommended EBC brake pad for maybe 20 years. And that's hard because, you know, formulas change. You're not allowed to use copper anymore. I don't know if these have the copper in them. These are a few years old. But they were known to have, you could actually see swirls of copper fiber in the pad back in the day. So that maybe has goofed them up. Like I said, they weren't any better than the Brembos. They didn't dust as much. And I ran them a few times to get some heat into them to really warm them up, and I still wasn't really impressed. And I also have them on Old Blue Accord, yellows. And I'm equally not that impressed, but they, once they get warm, they kind of do come into their own a little bit. And now all these performance pads are going to be a little bit cold-blooded, and that's an important thing to remember, especially as you get higher and higher up the food chain as pads. They're going to be not that good cold and better hot, and that's kind of important, and especially on a street vehicle, because you can get caught out where you got a pad that's real cold-blooded, and it's a cold day, and you're driving around. You know, say you're in the blue car, and you're driving around, and those pads are a little cold-blooded. You're not going to have 100% braking at 40-degree temperatures on a cold day. You just gotta kind of calculate that in your head, or do your, you know, whatever logarithm tells you. You're not at a disadvantage, and that's important in performance stuff. And I'm going to do stuff about tires too. You know, I've got tires laying all over the place, and that goes with 200 tread wear tires and stuff. You're giving something away at temperature, and you've got to understand it. Tonight it's 45 degrees. I understand that my vehicle is not going to perform at 100% like it would at 70 or 80 or 90 degrees on a nice dry day, and that could get somebody in trouble. Especially you got a high powered car, you know, 650 horsepower. You can get yourself in trouble. I mean, the manufacturer's trying not to, but there's an envelope there that some people might be missing. So to stick with brakes, though, yeah, the EBC yellows, yeah, the only thing is, like I said, they didn't wear bad, but I didn't have a lot of meat to start with, and I could feel actually after a while that the pedal was moving more, because obviously I didn't have enough thickness. In your pedal movement on your thickness of your pad, there's something to it. So in the end, right now, and this is kind of funny because I generally don't like Wagner products. And Wagner is, I believe, a Federal Mogul product currently. And they're sold at Advanced Auto Parts, and these were dirt cheap. I believe these were like way under $100. They might have been $69. So I went from a $300-something pad to a normal Waggy pad. You know, they call them the Waggies, but they're not bad pad. They're not a bad pad at all. They squeal, and that was kind of important because a lot of people complain about, especially SRT vehicles, but Brembos in general squealing, and these definitely squeal. They're not terrible, and honestly, it doesn't bother me a bit. But they stop good. They stop pretty good. There's not like a huge amount of initial bite, but they do the job. And for the price, and I did put cheap brand new rotors, but I put CarQuest style rotors, which are probably the cheaper Chinese or made in India rotors. They're way under $100. whereas the Brembo rotors are probably like 300 or 400. I don't know what they are right now, but pretty impressed with the old Waggers. But they're squealing, and honestly, not a high performance brake pad to me. I mean, I've never run them real hard in the mountains. I got a feeling they're gonna give up. But it's kind of time for me. I kind of looked through the rotors while I was doing the oil change. It's kind of time for a new set of brake pads. So I've got some choices. Now I did put these wherever pads, and I actually had to look these up because I was like, this is a weird size. But what it is these are the rears. So at 60,000 miles, I went ahead and put rears on, and I took the Brembos right that are there off, and plenty of meat on those Brembos. So just to make sure, make sure I had fresh pads. And yeah, it's a little weird that I keep everything. That's part of me cleaning up a little bit, but it kind of just gives you like a kind of an idea, what your vehicle's doing. So now I've got 65,000 miles, and I probably got more than 5,000 on this pad. I probably got 10, probably got 5 on the rears. So yeah, looking towards, I'm probably going to go ahead back to a Ray Bestis rotor, because I like Ray Bestis, and the rotors are reasonable. I'm not going to buy Brembo rotors. I'm not going to buy Brembo pads. Obviously, with Brembo, too, it's kind of cool. They actually put this anti-squeal stuff in there, and it looks like a copper coat. I buy the Permatex version of that. That's kind of like a red... I cannot remember the name of it. Silimac, maybe. Silicone based. I can't find the can either, but I paid a lot of money for it. So definitely not going to go with EBC yellows. Definitely not going to go with Ray Bestis regular pads. I'm not sure. I've got an idea. I've got two or three brands in my head. I'm going to pay a little money. I'm going to go a little bit. I mean, obviously this was a budget deal right here. So, and one thing I wanted to talk about too, as I'm thinking about what brake pads, and this is kind of I think some people get kind of confused. Brake pads, they have a standard, and this standard is called the FMSI, Friction Material Standards Institute, and this FMSI number is this 1405 number you see. So I would say to you, hey, I'm looking for a D1405 brake pad. These are all D1405s. Now, most of the American companies put that 1405 number someplace in their part number. Someplace in here. I can't quite see it on the Brembo or on these. But what I have noticed is that for some reason EBC does not follow that, and I don't know why. I know they're made in Great Britain, but if you look through that whole thing, their DP number is always going to be a 5-digit, and obviously they're going to tell you what it fits, but you're not going to see that 1405. Where on all these other brake pads, you're going to find the 1405 number, and that dictates like the width, the length. There's all these numbers. Like you can actually pull up the spec, and it's going to show you exactly how wide this pad's supposed to be, exactly how long, the curvature. So a little odd with EBCs. There's probably a good reason for that. I imagine the FMSI is American standard, and then the European ISO standard is, whatever, not the same. But so I'm dealing with the D1405, and it's always going to be a D is the FMSI number. So like on my Honda Accord, I run Integra Type R pads and rotors, and I know it's a D409, so I'm like, yeah, I got to, you can shop around for a D409 pad, and there's 15 companies that make that pad. And that's the cool thing about these 1405s is they fit a lot of vehicles. Like I think it said on that other one, you got Cadillacs, you got Corvettes, you've got quite a bit of performance vehicles, so you should have a good selection. And I do. I've looked a little bit online. I'm thinking about, actually, when I said I didn't say Ray Bestis, I'm not going to get this Ray Bestis, but there's a ST43 for racing. It's very expensive. They got to custom make them. Probably going to cost me $350. I'm thinking about trying it. And really what I'm looking at is I want to have a really good initial bite on my Jeep. And I think most people on a brake system, they want, when they hit the pedal, you want to really hit the windshield. And that's what I got on the blue car. And the pedal is nice and high and tight. Now on the Jeep, of course, with anti-lock brakes and, you know, all the other stuff, it's not quite what you would think a brake pedal would feel when you have solid mounted calipers and performance 6-piston calipers and all that. And it's kind of not disconcerting, but the pedal drops off and you don't have that initial bite that you think you would. And obviously, you know, they've got to compromise. My wife drives this sometimes, and she doesn't want to be thrown through the windshield when she hits the brakes. Obviously, who does? I do. I want to hit that brake. I want to know that I'm right there on top of it, and I'm going to be the one that modulates the brake pedal, not the computer or anything else. So, yeah, I'm going to do some shopping around, you know, be a little Christmas present. I got plenty of time. I got plenty of meat on these waggies. You know, like I said, when I did my oil change, I peeked through the rotors. I looked at the brake pad thickness. Way more than these babies. So probably more in the line of these babies. But yeah, so yeah, kind of fun thought. But you know, and I'm in the tires, and I'm in the brakes because that's what makes your car rock and roll or not. So besides the engine. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So that's my brake talk. Maybe if you guys got some questions. I've been kind of been on the you know, I've been buying EBC brakes since probably the early 90s. And some of these other ones, and obviously, you know, high zoot fluid and all the other good stuff. And you always want to, I mean, you can't complain about having a bad, you know, a good brake system. You want something that's going to stop you in an emergency, obviously. So yeah, so that's my talk on brakes. Appreciate y'all looking and stuff and trying to make these videos last a little longer. I guess people want to hear me talk, but Old Blue out, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to look. Thanks a lot.